Yay! What's up, everybody? Ethan Newberry.
Kim Tashima Newberry.
Ready for another Ginger Runner Live. Happy Monday, everybody. Our favorite day of the week. Excited to bring everyone back together for tonight's episode number 114. And also very excited about tonight's episode. I say that every week. I do. But tonight is special because we managed to drag this athlete off of a mountaintop, basically pulling him out of the backcountry after an incredible win at an ultra trail race here very recently. We're going to talk about on tonight's show, all the way down to civilization, just so we could get strong enough signal to get him onto the show. A lot of work went into this on his part. So I've already offered to reimburse for gas. I think he just wants gels, and I think we can make that happen. But tonight's guest is Zach Miller, one of the most exciting runners I've ever been able to watch in person. He's just an absolute beast and an awesome guy, super nice, really kind, and I'm excited for tonight's show. So if you're watching live, get those questions ready. We've got Kim in the chat room, and there's already good activity, I can tell.
We're stoked.
We're all stoked. So sit back, relax, grab your adult beverage or beverage of more. We're just drinking soda water tonight, but it's like really good stuff from the 80s. I don't think it's actually from the 80s, but yeah, very, very excited for tonight's show, guys. Here we go. Ginger Runner Live starts now. Ginger Runner. Yay! Cool. Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 114. Tonight, as I mentioned in the pre-show there, I am joined by just an incredible athlete. He's one of the most entertaining ultra runners that you can watch right now. Just the way he races is unlike anything I've seen and unlike anything that we're seeing right now in ultra. He's basically 150% from the time the gun goes off at the beginning all the way till the last, no, even past the finish line, which we'll prove here in tonight's show. So I am joined live from, I think it's Colorado, by Mr. Zach Miller. What's up, Zach? Yeah.
Hey, not much. Stoked to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So where are you?
I'm in Manitou.
Manitou.
Yeah. So.
And where are you living now? Because I feel like that's one of the coolest things is that you are in the backcountry. Are you living in the backcountry, or is it just kind of a training thing?
No, I live in the backcountry all the time. So I don't have a house anywhere else. So yeah, my driveway is 6 miles long, and you can't take a car up it. So it's just a run.
That sounds amazing, though. The last time we had, or I guess the only other time that we've had you on the show was a long time ago. I think it was after Lake Sonoma or something. And you had because you used to not live on a cruise ship, but you used to work on a cruise ship, I think, as an engineer or something, and you would train in the stairwells?
Yeah, I lived on the cruise ship because that's kind of how jobs on there work. You just kind of have to live there. I mean, you live there for anywhere for several months, and then you take a few weeks off. But I lived and worked on a cruise ship in the printing industry. I have an engineering degree, but I kind of did a hodgepodge of hands-on technical work and management work all at the same time. But yeah, and I'd run in the stairwells to get vertical and on the treadmill to get my mileage.
That's crazy. I remember hearing that. And you were winning races at the time too. Like you're coming to high altitude races or mountain races and just clobbering purely off training on a boat. And it just proves that, maybe the terrain doesn't really matter. It's kind of how you dedicate yourself. I just that's so impressive.
There's already been a lot of cruise ship chatter in the chat room.
Yeah. I think last time he was on the show, he had just gotten off of his recent cruise ship stint. So from that point, you moved to the mainland, and in Colorado now. Is this kind of where you've been for a long time, or has this been a recent development?
Yeah, I've been here. Let's see. I moved here shortly after Lake Sonoma in 2014. So I've been here about 2 years now. So, and I'm pretty happy. I used to live in town in Manitou, and now I just live halfway up the mountain. So on the side of a trail.
So how has life been different then? Are you working the 9 to 5 and you have to commute into town, or is it you're able to work remotely, or is running the full-time deal?
No, well, actually, living on the mountain is the deal. That's my job. So I'm a caretaker, is what I am. So it's Pikes Peak is where I live. So Pikes Peak, the trailhead starts in Manitou and runs to the summit, and it's about 13 miles long. It's where they run the Pikes Peak Ascent, Pikes Peak Marathon, and it's all on the bar trail. And so about halfway up the bar trail is what they call bar camp. And it's basically just a little log cabin that was built in 1922. And so it's almost 100 years old. And then there's like a couple lean-to shelters and another little cabin. And basically I just live there. I'm the caretaker, and I take care of all the hikers and runners and people that come through. And we actually host people. They book to stay with us, and we feed them and then go find them when they get lost or hurt on the mountain. So
hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah. It happens. It happens, especially in the summer. Like, so some days I train and then I train again by surprise. Because I go out and I run for like 3 hours and then I come back and then somebody's lost or hurt and I have to go out for another several hours. So
that's crazy.
But yeah, so that is my job. That's my job up there. And then I just kind of work the running in with it, which actually for me, works really well, because I just step off the porch and there's the trail. So
it sounds ideal. I mean, it sounds like bar camp is on one of the most beautiful, notorious mountains in Colorado, and it sounds like you just have access to some of the most epic terrain.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty ideal. It's still a lot of work. Our summers get super busy. I mean, we host up to 45 people for dinner. So when you're cooking and washing dishes by hand for 45 people, it gets a little crazy. So it's kind of like managing a circus. Like everything happens up there. And you don't have access to like a grocery store. You don't have access to a lot of conveniences. So you just kind of have to think on your feet a lot and go with the flow. And so, I mean, my day in itself is training. I mean, I go out and run, but like my whole, like in the winter, it's more chill, but in the summer, I'm just like on my feet all day, doing pretty labor intensive things. And, so yeah, it's a bit crazy. A lot of people come up and they're like, "Oh, this is so sweet. I'd love to do this." And it's like, yeah, you'd like to do it for a week. But I mean, I love to do it. It just takes the right fit. It's not easy. But for me, it fits and it's a lot of fun.
There's definitely this romantic ideal of, this incredible camp, this cabin in the backwoods that's just visited by through hikers and other athletes. You're like, oh, that's the dream job.
It sounds really
amazing.
Until you're washing dishes.
Yeah, what you just said, the 45-person dishwashing. I'm like, oh yeah, there's work involved.
Yeah. I mean, like I go out, like I might go out and train for several hours in the afternoon, and then I'm standing at the sink for like hours in the till like 9 o'clock at night just scrubbing dishes, and it's like that's all right, like and the other thing is, like, if we're doing our job right, it does look like a lot of fun. Like if we have everything under control, people come up and they see me like hanging out talking to runners and talking to hikers, and it looks cool, but they don't see me like shoveling the composting toilets,
right?
In the fall, or maybe chopping all the wood, which I like. That's great fun for me, but some people wouldn't like, or shoveling 3 feet of snow, 2 weeks before a race that I'm trying to taper for. Because that was funny when I was training for Madeira, a race on a tropical island, like right before I flew out for the race, when I was supposed to be tapering, we got hit with like 3 to 4 feet of snow. And I was like trying to taper. So I would go out to run, and it's like, okay, I'm going to run for like, 70 to 90 minutes. And I would cover like a mile and a half because I was like up to my waist, you know, and then I would come back and I would spend like all day shoveling snow. And I'm like, this isn't much of a taper, but I just hope it works.
That's crazy.
I was gonna say that was really good timing because viewer Kimosabi75 asked, question for Zach: how do you plan to taper for a race with your work schedule? So it seems like it's pretty unpredictable as far as weather, distance, having to go out twice a day, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So like, well, one thing is sometimes when the taper comes, I just kind of hope the rescue calls don't come in, so I don't have to go out for like a midnight rendezvous on the mountain. That's going to take 4 to 6 hours. But I mean, at the same time, my kind of view on taper is like, you can't get too stressed out or finicky about it. I mean, basically, I'm going to train at a certain level, for most of the training block, and then taper, I'm going to bring it back down in some level. So like if I'm at least reducing, so I can reduce the training usually. Right. And if the rest of my lifestyle is still like it always is, like standing on my feet and doing labor intensive things, in my mind, that's potentially okay, because I'm still tapering. Like I'm pulling back something, and everything else might just still be the same level, but at least the running is pulled back. So my body is still able to recover. And usually like for a big ultra, I'm flying out about a week before the race starts. So if everything hits the fan and I've done a million rescues, which doesn't typically happen, but say everything hit the fan and I was just nonstop 2 weeks out, at least I have that last week to rest up, which is usually where I do most of my tapering anyways. Most of it comes in that last week. The first week of taper for me is usually still fairly voluminous.
There's I want to remind everybody who's watching live that we are taking tons of questions. There's already a lot of questions piling up because this is such an incredible lifestyle, and then you tack on top of that just training and also racing and winning and being a sponsored Nike athlete. It's like it's all these things. So there's lots of questions. If you have questions, bring them into the live chat room. You can also use Twitter by using the hashtag #GRLive. That's another way to do it. And so I already know we have a bunch of stuff here in the chat, and I know that we talked about. I just saw one here from Brandy Cafaro, and this is a question that I wanted to ask as well. So are there other caretakers when you have to leave for a race? Example, Madeira. Is someone there?
Yeah, so I'm not alone. I'm very fortunate. That's why I'm able to still train and race. So I caretake with my sister and her fiance. So there's 3 of us that live at bar camp full time and work together. And then we have a 4th. Her name is Maria, and she's a local of Colorado. She lives down in the Springs, and she kind of helps with some of the logistical things in town, like when we need to get supplies. And then she also helps. She comes up in the summer when it's really busy, or like in the winter when somebody needs to go away. So there's 4 of us that help out and run the place. So when I go away to races, usually it's my sister and her fiance are behind taking care of things. And same thing when I go out and train. I'm very fortunate. They allow me to go out and do what I need to do to get ready for my races, because that's really important to me. Not only just keeping me sane, because running is therapeutic, but also just allowing me to get ready. So occasionally there's times where I'm the only one at the camp because everyone else went away, which is okay. I actually enjoy it, but usually that means like I'm setting my alarm clock for like 3 a.m. And I'm getting up and I'm running like super early because I have to get back and open the camp and get everything ready. And so basically I'm just running when it's dark those weeks. But that works. You just make it work. And sometimes those weeks fall where it's a time where maybe I just take it as a down week and I still run, but sometimes I run a lot. Sometimes I run less. It's like, it makes sense to take a down week here. So instead of running, for hours, I'll run for like an hour or an hour and a half. And that's pretty easy to do in the morning and get back and get everything under control.
Is there always like through hikers or guests at the camp, or are there days or weeks that go by where there's no one coming through?
In the summer, there's pretty much always somebody. In the summer, it gets super busy. Like we can probably see like in the hundreds of people during a day. Between overnight guests and then just people passing through. Especially because like when it gets close to Pikes Peak Marathon Ascent, all the runners are just coming up and doing their workouts and training on the trail because it's the race course. But in the winter, no, it slows way down. The winter, we almost always see somebody, a hiker, a snowshoer, a skier during the day. But we can go like 5-6 days without having anyone stay overnight with us.
Got it.
Because it just slows way down in the winter. And if a big snowstorm hits, we can go 4 or 5 days without seeing anybody. But usually there's at least somebody. The hikers are pretty faithful.
Nice. So keep the questions coming, guys. I know that we already have a bunch built up here. Go ahead, Kim.
Casey is in the chat room.
Oh, Casey Lichtai, also a Nike teammate. Congratulations, Casey, on winning the marathon this weekend. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about this because she says, "Ooh, ask him about the mountain lion sighting."
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So everybody always comes up and they're like, well, not everybody, but people ask. They ask about the bears or the mountain lions because they're worried. I always just kind of say, well, the bears aren't really a big deal. Like they'll run away, as long as you don't like have your food out in the open, they're not going to bother you. They're big raccoons. And then, cause they're just black bears. And then the mountain lions, I tell people they're around, but you like never see them. And I used to say, I've never seen them. And then a couple weeks before Madeira, I finally saw my first one. So, I kind of thought like when I'd see one, I'd be like freaked out because they are dangerous. Like they're predators. If they want you, they can get you. But usually they don't want anything to do with you. But I surprisingly wasn't freaked out. Like I was just running down one of my favorite trails that's been snowed in most of the winter, and it finally started to clear out. So I went down it, and all of a sudden this mountain lion just jumped on the trail, probably like 50 feet in front of me. But I didn't feel threatened at all. He was beautiful. And he just turned and he or she ran down the trail. And then I was standing there watching it. And I realized, I was like, oh, I have my GoPro. So I pulled my GoPro out. And the next thing I know, I was like running after it down the trail. And I was like, because I wanted the footage and I didn't feel scared. And then as I was running, I was like, well, he might change his mind. Like he might come back. And so then I got a little nervous. But like he disappeared and I couldn't find him. And the GoPro footage wasn't very good. But it was a cool experience. Like actually I had been running on the same trail like a day or two before, and I saw these tracks in the snow, and I thought, because I was doing a lot of post holing, and I was following these tracks, and I thought they were the bears, because I thought the bears were back out and they were making the tracks. And I was kind of glad they were there because it made my run easier because I was stepping in their tracks. And then after I saw the mountain lion, I was like, well, maybe those were the mountain lion tracks. I don't know. Because I didn't really stop and study them. I didn't really look to see. There's a way you can tell like what's what. And I didn't really look to see. I just usually I see bears on that trail, not mountain lions.
Yeah.
So I just kind of assumed they were bears, but
you may have lost sight of the mountain lion, but I guarantee you the mountain lion didn't lose sight of you.
No.
It'd be great to see the footage from their GoPro, because the mountain lion has GoPro
The
footage.
chat room's freaking out. They're just like, oh my God, no.
Yeah, the chat room's like, why'd you chase it? But,
I don't. I don't know. You have to understand, like, I thought I'd be really freaked out. And like, I'm usually like I know, like, give animals their space. And like, I grew up hunting with my dad. He taught me how to be in the woods. But like, I don't know. I just didn't feel very threatened. And then like, he was obviously scared. He was fleeing. And so I was like, I don't know. I was like, oh, I'm going to try and get some footage. But I mean, I was chased by a bear once on the mountain. But it was very brief. I was it was like spring is kind of when the bears concern me more, because I feel like they've been asleep all winter and now they're out and they're looking for food and they're maybe not quite used to people yet, or maybe they're a little grumpy. And I was running last year, shortly after I started working at bar camp, and I kind of came up over a little climb and I heard something to my left and I looked and there was this bear, but it was like already running. Like usually they're just like standing there, but this one was like already running like towards me. And I was like, I know you're supposed to like stop and make yourself look big, but like, I was like, if I stop, he's going to be right in front of me in like 10 seconds, you know, and then I don't know what the heck I'm going to do. So I was going into like a downhill, thankfully. So I just like took off. Like I just started running like really fast and trying not to fall on the trail. And then I kept looking back and he'd be there. And then eventually he just wasn't there anymore. And I was happy. But like I went around, the funny thing was like the trail did like a switchback. And so I was like mindful of trail etiquette and I followed the switchback. And I was like, oh, shoot. I was like, if this bear cuts the switchback, he's going to meet me right on the other side. Because, of course, he doesn't feel obligated to stay on the trail. But he was gone by that point. So I got away from that bear. And that's the only one that's ever chased me. So
I love it. Zach chases a mountain lion, but yet gets chased by probably an innocent black bear. People are calling you Zach the Snack Miller in the chat room. They don't want you to be a snack. So don't be a snack.
No, I don't want to be a snack, and I want to be respectful of all the animals on the trail, but as
well as the trail switchbacks. That's very kind of you.
Yes.
Switchbacks.
Yes. So, but yeah, it's I guess it adds a little extra element to my training.
Absolutely. It's such a cool life, I bet, up there, being caretaker at bar camp, but then also doing what you're talking about is like getting out there and training and getting out to really see nature on a daily basis, deep into the backcountry.
Yeah, and to really learn Pikes Peak as a mountain, because I used to live in town and, you know, you'd go up and run the peak like on weekends or, you know, but there's a bunch of trails like way up in that when you live in town, it's like that's your turnaround point for the day. But I live right there, so I get to explore the mountain so much more because I'm already at 10,000 feet, you know? Right. So like I can run the peak for a workout, you know, like I can go up and do hard workouts above tree line, but I can also just go out and explore, because most people just know the bar trail, but there's all these other trails up there that like don't get touched very much. And I get to explore them, and like there's just weird stuff on the mountain. Like there's weird like caves, and there's weird like old cabins and you know, that are like just run down and not functioning, and you know, or weird little hobo shelters that people have built, and like there's just all sorts of cool things. And there's so many different views of the peak. Like that's one of the really cool things. Like they're like just a little before Madeira, I found one of the best ones I've ever found. Like the Pikes Peak itself, like the whole like massif looks so different from different points on the mountain. And so I kind of explore and find all these really like photogenic spots to look at the peak from. So I kind of see the mountain in a whole different way. That's
amazing. I definitely want to start talking about racing and training, and people have lots of questions about like nutrition and all that kind of stuff. So Zach, for those of you who don't know, Zach is very fast, extremely fast. Last year, first place in CCC at UTMB. I also was lucky to be at the North Face 50 miler this last December to witness him take that overall win. I'm going to show you guys a clip here of this is an example of how Zach notoriously finishes every race. It doesn't matter if he's first, second, third, or anything. It's just, this is Zach for 110% of the entire race. So this is him finishing the North Face 50, winning it this last December. Here we go.
Orange bib, ladies and gentlemen, from Manitou Springs, winner of 10,000.
that face is ingrained, because I think there's tons of photos online of you finishing races and that face, and like you do what track sprinters do, which is just bust your chest across that rope, right? And it is so inspiring to watch someone crank all day for hours, still just throw it all at the finish line. It is so awesome to see, man. And very recently, Zach just finished first place at the Madeira Island Ultra Trail, MIUT. Mayut. I don't think that's actually what they say.
They say mute. Yeah.
I don't know anything about the island. I have seen pictures and some video clips of the terrain. And Zach, can you give us a little bit of history of this race? Like, what are some of the stats on it, and what is your connection to it? Do you remember any of it, or is that all blacked out at this point?
Yeah. Well, that's funny because like the photographers at this race did a phenomenal job. I mean, it wasn't probably the easiest of courses to get access on, and they were at really good points on the course, and they shot phenomenal footage. But speaking of not remembering, there was one photo that like came up of me after the race, and I was looking at it, I was like, I don't know where that is. Like, I was like, I can't remember where, like, that was an awesome shot, but I cannot remember where that was. And then I think since I've remembered, but at first it was a bit fuzzy. Or the guy who crewed me sent me a picture of me going down these stairs. Like, you would think like there's only so many places with like civilization you'd remember stairs. He's like, do you remember these stairs? They were like concrete stairs. I was like, no. And then he like told me, because I had fallen on them, and I was like, oh yeah, now I remember. But no, the island is incredible. It's part of Portugal. It's not part of the Canaries. I thought it was part of the Canaries, but I was wrong. It's separate. It's north of the Canaries, off the coast of Portugal. It belongs to Portugal. I had actually traveled to it while I was on the cruise ship. That's the weird thing about running these races, is I end up in places that I've been to, and then I'll be partway through the course, and it's like, oh, I've run here before.
That's crazy.
Because when I worked on the ship, we used to sail, I think, into Funchal, and the mountains were like way up in the middle of the island. So what I used to do was I would take a bike. They had bikes we could like rent for the day on the cruise ship, and I would take a bicycle and start at sea level and ride up to like 6,000 feet where the trails were. And then I would run on the trails. So there was a part of this race where I was actually running on the exact trails I had ran on when I worked on the ship.
No way.
But yeah, so I got up there and I like recognized everything, and that was pretty cool. But yeah, the island is great. The people are great. A lot of them speak good English. They're very friendly. I just had amazing time. Like, I went alone. I didn't go with any Nike teammates. I didn't go with a Nike manager. I was just alone. And the people just welcomed me, and it was fantastic. So it's a great race. It's the hardest race I've ever run. The mountains are like really dramatic and steep. The course is just littered in stairs. I came back to Manitou and told people that it was like running up and down the incline for 70 miles, which the Manitou incline is just like a 1 mile staircase. But the course just had stairs and stairs and more stairs. And I didn't know there were so many stairs. I just got there and everybody was like, there are lots of stairs. And I was like, okay, I like stairs. But like, they were all different. Like, some were like cement, some were like cobblestone, some were like wood slats with mud in between. Some were big, some were small, some were rocks. So by the end of 70 miles, your legs were just like ripped to shreds, because stairs are like, they just rip your legs apart.
Right.
And yeah, the profile, the elevation profile was like a heart rate monitor. It just went like up and down like all day. And it was funny because I oftentimes don't pay attention to a ton of details before I go into a race. Like, I'm getting better at it, but like I think it was like a couple weeks before the race, like somebody posted a picture of the elevation profile, and I saw it and I was like, whoa. I was like, that's like unrelenting. Like, that's serious. And I was like, I was hanging out with Amanda Basham, one of my Nike teammates. I was like, I saw this elevation profile today of the race, and it's like really intense. And she was like, didn't you look at it like beforehand? And I was like, well, maybe when I signed up for the race, but I haven't been like studying it like in training. So yeah, but it was great. The motivation for going, mainly I needed 4 points for UTMB and that course scores 4 points. And it was about 4 months before UTMB. So it gave me plenty of time to rest and recover and train for UTMB. So I figured that was the one. Transvolcania wasn't going to get enough points, and Lavaredo would, but it's 2 months away from UTMB. So this fit, and I'm really happy it's the one I picked because it was a phenomenal experience.
So for those of you who want to see that elevation profile, there it is. It's an absolute monster. This is all in meters and kilometers and stuff like that. 70 miles. Do you know how much gain? I'm not doing the math here real quick.
It's like 7,000 meters, which comes out to like just shy of 23,000 feet.
Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah, I think it's like 22,900 feet or something like that.
Which is nuts, because most 100-milers have about 20 to 23,000 feet. This is a 70-mile race, and apparently has lots of stairs. So
yeah,
sounds like great training.
Yeah.
This is not your finish line picture from Madeira, but I'm guessing it's very similar. This is the cover of Ultra Running magazine. Our very own Zach Miller on the show today. That is that face that you saw at the North Face 50 mile finish. But that's, I'm assuming, a very similar face to what you made winning Madeira. How did it feel? I'm going to say like the last 10 or 15 miles, because you were working this race. It wasn't like you had a huge gap. Were you worried at all, or like how did that race play out towards the end for you?
Towards the end, let's see. So about halfway through the race, we had this long technical descent, and I was out of gels, I was out of food, I was out of water, and I was almost to the aid station, but I wasn't quite there. And I just hit the wall. Like I bonked coming down this descent, and descending isn't my biggest strength. And so when I bonk, I'm really slow. And I was just like, oh, the aid station was coming, but I was like, oh, this is bad. So all I had was a bag of goo Roctane powder, but no water.
Just powder.
I still need to tell Magda this because she's probably gonna laugh at me. I just ate the bag of powder because I was so desperate. Like I was like, I can't, and it was amazing. Within like 3 minutes, I was back, and like I felt so much better, and I was running better, and I ran into the aid station strong. But that's the aid station of that video that kind of went viral on the internet of me eating everything. Because I got in there and I was like, I need to eat. So I just ate. Because when I bonked, I was like, oh shoot, like here it goes. But then I ate the powder and I was fine. And I was like, okay, like I'm not done. My day's not done. I just need to eat. Like my legs are fine. I just need to keep eating. So, but I forget, you asked how were the final miles. Oh, so that was like halfway. And then after that aid station, the next climb probably takes like 2 to 3 hours. And when we got up to like kind of coming across that ridge and finishing that climb, I was like gunning it. The spectators probably thought I was like thought the finish line was there. Cause I was like running up this, sometimes I was power hiking, sometimes I was running, but I was like running or power hiking or something up this climb. And I remember I was practically wheezing. I was breathing so hard. I was like heaving out loud. Like you could hear it. And, I was just going for it. But then there was like, from there on, the course was mostly down. It was like 25 miles to go and mostly down. Oh, and that last 25 miles was so hard. One, because I was afraid the Euros were going to catch me on the descents. Mm-hmm. And two, because it just hurt so bad to go down. Like I could climb. Climbing I was okay with. Like I think pretty much, I imagine pretty much every time we climbed in the race, I increased my lead. Cause from that halfway point to on that next long climb that I was talking about, I think I'm not sure, but I think they said I put like 6 more minutes on TOEFL or something.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was so scared I was going to get caught going down, and running down just hurt so bad. But like, yeah, it was just like I hit probably the lowest mental points I've ever hit in a race in that last 25 miles. And the lowest physical, and some of the lowest physical points. Templier may have been lower, but because I pretty much couldn't move there. But I just like I was just in so much pain, and I just wanted to stop. But the last like 10K was weird. It felt like it took forever. It felt like it would never end. But at the same time, like I was so mentally fried and ready to be done, and everything hurt. But at the same time, my body was in this weird like rhythm and groove that it just kept going. Like my legs just kept turning over, and it was like I wasn't cramping, and like I just kept going. Like physically, my body just kept doing its thing. But like mentally and like the pain in my legs, I just wanted to stop. But it was just kind of like I was in autopilot. But yeah, I don't know, but it was weird. I don't know if I've ever quite had that in a race before. But
watching you in multiple ultras now, you talked about the heaving thing. I feel like every time I've heard you run by me, there's that. It sounds like you're heaving, but
yeah,
everyone's like, "Is Zach okay?" And it's like, "Yeah, Zach's fine. He's just on, another level that no real humans really know about." But I never feel like you always work hard. You're always working at 150%, and I imagine that your engine is just used to doing that, right?
Well, I think my engine is good at going back and forth. So when I told you about how I saw that elevation profile, I was kind of like, oh. That was my initial reaction. But then I was also like, no, this is good for me. Like, because this is my course. Because I know that like I tend to do well on courses that just go up and down and up and down, and like Sonoma, like it just goes up. Like I mean, it's not, it's on a whole, it's different. It's way different than Madeira, but it just goes up and down and up and down. And kind of one of the first real trail races I cut my teeth on when I was getting into the sport was a race in my hometown, Pennsylvania, called the Conestoga Trail Run. And that's like all it does is go up and down and up and down and up and down. And I figured out that my body just does well with that. And so, I mean, I like, you see me on a climb and I'm heaving and I'm like going all, and I look like I'm going all out. But, I come down the other side on the descent, and a lot of times descents, at least like until your technical skills are good enough, you can't run them at like full aerobic capacity. Like you're not tapped out aerobically. You're basically just trying to be as smooth as you can be. So it's the terrain that's holding you back. Your heart rate actually drops. And so I think my body does like really well with that fluctuation, like hard up and then, shift gears going down. Like you're still racing hard because you're just trying to manage the technical nature of the course, but your heart rate's coming down, your breathing's slowing down, and you're getting a little bit of recovery. And my engine just does well with that fluctuation. So
awesome. I can't forget the live viewers. Kim has been pulling questions out of the chat room for 20 minutes. So Kim, what's been going on in the chat room here?
You just mentioned, Zach, the video that kind of went viral of you shoveling in all the food at the aid station.
It's great.
So there's been a lot of chatter about that. I watched it myself that day, and I was like, everything would have come back out if that was me.
Yeah.
So there's questions in the chat room like, is that a normal aid station situation for you? Do you have troubles keeping everything in?
Yeah. No, I mean, I have a pretty iron stomach, but I've also gotten a lot better at nutrition over the years, especially the past year. I've been working with Magda from Goo, and she's been helping me out a bunch and teaching me things. So that's been super helpful. But when it comes to nutrition, there's kind of like a plan, and then there's kind of the like, okay, we need to deviate from the plan. Or we need to keep the plan, but we need to supplement it a little bit. So no, you don't see me do that in like every aid station. In fact, most of the early aid stations, when everything's still going smoothly, I'll just be like swapping water bottles, grabbing more gels and going on my way. I'm not in there like eating a ton of other stuff. But like I said, I had bonked like right before that aid station. And I have to give a lot of credit to, I went over there crewless, and then I was walking down the street one day, and all of a sudden this car comes like zooming up beside me, and these two guys jump out, and they're like, Zach, can we have a picture? and so they jump out and they take their picture with me. And then they leave and they get back in their car. And then like a couple days later before the race, the one guy messages me on Facebook, and he's like, Zach, do you need any help? And I was like, I don't have a crew for the race. If you can help me, that would be awesome. And so he's like, okay. He's like, I'm helping my friend, but I will try. And so he comes over to the hotel and he meets me, and we come up with a plan, a strategy. And so I have to give him a lot of credit. His name's Luis, and he helped me all day, and he was like so on point. And he told me, like, he knew things about the course. He was a local, and he was like, that aid station where I ate so much, he had told me beforehand, he's like, you will need to eat at this aid station because the next climb is very hard, and if you don't, like, you'll be in trouble. So I think I partially ate because he told me I needed to. And I partially ate so much because I had bonked, and I knew I needed those calories. But I mean, typically I do a liquid fueling strategy now. So I'm running all day on Goo Roctane, which is a high calorie like electrolyte drink that Goo has. And so I aim for a bottle an hour because it's about 250 calories a bottle. And then supplementing with gels as necessary. So I'm trying to get down around 300 calories an hour. Although I feel like I'm finding I'm probably able to do more like 4 to even maybe 500 an hour sometimes now.
That's great.
Just because of my effort level. So yeah, but basically I'm trying to do everything on Goo Roctane and gels and like Coke. But then, if I feel I need more, you get what happened at that aid station. And that was oranges and bananas and chocolate and Pepsi and water. And then I left with my pockets stuffed full of Goo and Roctane and chocolate. And I just went down the trail eating those things. So yeah, it was funny because there were videos of me finishing and it was like 17,000 views, and then there's a video of me eating and it's like 130,000. Apparently everybody likes the eating video.
It's a fascinating video to watch because I don't know how you managed to get down that much food in such a short amount of time. It literally is just
yeah. It's funny because but at the same time it's like, for me, it's like aid stations are like 3 minutes. If you can do them really fast and get everything you need, like you can gain like several minutes on your competitors just from an aid station, and you don't even have to run. All you have to do is like shove things in your mouth fast. So like, and your pockets, like, so, and be organized. So like I actually have a crew going with me to UTMB, a bunch of buddies, from Pennsylvania. And the same guys actually that crewed me at North Face. And I'm thinking of like maybe being super organized and being like, okay, when I come in, like you take these bottles out of my pack and put full ones in for me, and have like a whole line of like food, and I will just like, you can stuff things in my pack for me, and I will just go down and eat like everything I can, and like, and like 2 minutes and then leave, like do like a line of oranges and like a line of chocolate and like a line of bananas and then just like take off. So, I mean, I don't know if I'll do that or not. I mean, I'll probably just be doing liquids for as long as I can. And then when that goes wrong, I'll just start shoving stuff in my mouth. But yeah, my stomach's pretty iron. So it didn't come back, like my stomach stayed pretty strong all day. And usually it gets a little queasy and like Coke fixes that. So
yeah, something with carbonation. I remember when we had you on right after Lake Sonoma, the other Nike Trail athletes pointed out that you used to make your own nutrition. Well, I don't know if you still do that, but you can go back and watch the episode if you're watching live now. But Zach actually showed a giant Ziploc bag of. They said it looked like poop, but it was basically nut butters and nuts and like Chex,
bananas. Yeah, I don't do it so much anymore, but I did do it before Madeira because Magda sends me a bunch of stuff, and I had used it all, and I ran out, and I should have wrote to her sooner to get more, and I didn't. And so like my last few training runs, I was like making my own. So I was like doing like dates and peanut butter and honey and maple syrup and like cooking it in the cabin and then taking it out on the run with me. But that, and I was just like eating chocolate. Maybe that paid off because we'd have like these little chocolates in the cabin, and I just like shove them in my pocket and go out and run. Or my mom makes these like really good like Oreo balls that she made for Easter and she sent to the mountain. And so I'd take out these like chocolate coated Oreo ball things and I would just like eat those on a run. So so maybe getting used to chocolate was good because in the race I was definitely downing some chocolate. But
tons of questions, babe. What's going on?
Tim Jaharis asked, any personal dietary rules, or do you just eat anything and everything?
I eat pretty much everything. I mean, I try and be pretty healthy, so I try and eat a lot of whole foods. I don't like to eat a lot of processed foods. I mean, like I don't like to buy things with ingredients lists that go on for pages of things that I can't pronounce and I don't know what they are, So if I buy, I don't eat a lot of ice cream, but if I eat ice cream, I like it to be like, like eggs, milk, sugar, like 4 things. Like ice cream only needs like 4 things, and somehow they find like 25 other things to put in there in most of them. Same thing with like cereals and things. Keep it pretty simple. But yeah, like I just, if I can make dinner and it's all made out of like vegetables and meats and like stuff that just like comes from nature, then that's a good way for me to eat. But yeah, I eat a lot of oatmeal, a lot of bananas, a lot of eggs, a lot of spinach, avocados, tomatoes, stuff like that. So
yeah, simple whole food.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not picky. Like I'm pretty much a garbage disposal. So like pretty much if you put it in front of me, I'll eat it. Like, so I go to the races and I think the international ones, I think they get a kick out of me because I'm just like the silly American who like eats everything. So I mean, like I was eating French fries the week of the race, and like I try different things, and I like to enjoy myself. So
nice. We got more.
Nathaniel Lucafar asks, what motivates you to keep pumping like that over 50 miles or more?
Yeah, motivation, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, I think like most of it's just like I'm just trying to do my best. Like when I get on the line, like I'm not usually on a line to just get a win, or just do good enough, like I put a lot of training and a lot of I don't know, like dedication into preparing an ultra. So when I get to and I'm selective with them, I only do a couple of years. So when the gun goes off, I'm going to make it count. Like I'm just going to go at it like with everything I've got. And I mean, I'm just trying to get to the finish line as fast as I can. And I'm trying to get away from the guys behind me. So I'm also pretty motivated by fear. Like people keep asking me like, isn't it like, I don't know, like, isn't it boring? Or like, isn't it like, wouldn't you want some company for 70 miles? Like, isn't it like kind of lonely to run out front? And I'm like, I just got asked this, Wes Thurman just ran up to the cabin today and asked me this. And I was like, no, I was like, I get nervous when I'm around other people. like I'm usually out there trying to break away. So if there's other people with me, that makes me nervous. So I like running off the front. But once I'm out there, the fear of the people behind me will drive me pretty hard. Like at North Face, I was so scared that Max King was back there gunning me down, and that keeps me going. And in Madeira, I was scared that like TOEFL was going to come run me down on a descent somewhere. And so that keeps me pushing hard. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just kind of a personal drive, I guess, and some fear.
Yeah, that's we've heard that from other guests on the shows as well. So you have Madeira, you got the points. So I'm assuming UTMB, having won CCC 100 CCC 100K, I guess, last year, you going for the big tricky this year?
Yeah, that's the plan. To be honest, when I finished Madeira, and I'm always kind of like this after an ultra, but I finished and I was like, I really don't know if I want to do UTMB anymore. But if you'd have found me after North Face in California, I would have been like, I don't want to see another ultra for like several months. Cause I'm like always like that. It's so the pain, you know, even if I got through 75% of the race feeling good, the pain that comes in that last 25% is so bad that like when I'm done, I don't want like, I'm like not even sure if I want to ultra run anymore. So, but yeah, then after the race started to settle and, you know, the pain started to subside and, you know, I start to forget or whatever, you know, then I'm kind of like, oh yeah, UTMB. And then I talked to some people there and I started finding people that were telling me that Madeira was harder than UTMB. And so then I was like, oh, well, if this is harder, you know, and I could remember what CCC felt like. So yeah, now I'm pretty excited. You know, the big goal is UTMB. We'll see how it goes. I've never run 100, so it's going to be new territory. You know, it could go well. It could end in a, you know, it could end in like burning flames at mile 75 or something, you know. So we'll see. But you know, I've got about 4 months to prepare. So you know, I'm rusting up right now, but I'll get back to work soon enough and see what I can do.
I mean, you have so much work already into your training, and with a race like Mute under your belt, and you've run CCC, which I've been told from other guests on the show is a majority of like the most spectacular parts of UTMB. So everything else you haven't run, I don't think is anything out of your expectations.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been over there before too, just running. So I've pretty much seen the whole course. I've kind of heard that like the CCC portion is like the harder portion. I'm not sure. It probably depends who you talk to. The really funny thing I heard in Madeira was that they described, was it Champs-Lac or Courmayeur? One of those places. They said that's where the Americans stop running. And I laughed and I said, you know, obviously not all. Like, I mean, David Laney ran awesome last year. Seth Swanson ran awesome. There's been other Americans who have done well. But it was really comical to hear that was the opinion that I forget where it was at like Champs-Lac or Courmayeur. That's where the Americans stop running.
It's probably Courmayeur because I feel like every guest we've had has mentioned Courmayeur as the place where they had to leave. yeah.
Well, and they said the Americans like to run very fast through the first portions that are not as technical and whatnot, and then they get there and they, you know, there's just a lot left to do and they struggle, and you know, and it's admirable that, you know, they give it a good go and run fast in the early stages. But it was just really comical to hear that sort of European perspective or opinion. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to UTMB, and I mean, it's not gonna be hard. Like I'm gonna go in it realistic. It's just gonna hurt. Like there's gonna be a point in there somewhere where I'm gonna be, at least I mean, unless I have some sort of magical day. There's going to be somewhere in there where I'm just absolutely miserable, and it is just going to be like the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life, potentially. And I'm going to want to do nothing but quit. But I think I'm just going to kind of go in with the expectation that that's going to happen, and I'm just going to have to push through it. Like that's just part of it. So
I think there's going to be more strategy too. I mean, you look at David Laney and Seth Swanson. We had Laney on the show and he talked about it. He took it easy to him. Easy to him is like record breaking pace, but he took it easy for the first 60 or 70 and then was like, okay, I'm ready to race now. And then, did what he did. Obviously a teammate of yours. You probably have heard the story 1,000 times. What I was going to say is just pretend like you're being chased by a black bear and you're chasing after a mountain lion in true Zach the Snack fashion.
There we go.
Before we move into the post show, we have still some questions from the live chat room. Some great questions. So go ahead, Dave.
So there's questions, kind of similar questions from Chris, Nathaniel, F. Blake. Everybody's kind of asking, what does your recovery strategy look like?
I'm sure you're in it now. What's your recovery like, Zach?
I mean, usually typical recovery is about 2 weeks of active rest. By active rest, that means I go out and run. I usually run every day. I usually run the day after the race. I mean, run is a relative term. It's more of like a shuffle. After Madeira, I hurt so bad, I wasn't sure I was going to run the next day. I was like, I may actually just take tomorrow off. And then you get walking around, and eventually I'm like, no, I'm going to go shuffle. And so I went outside and I was like, I was shuffling along the road. And next thing I know, this car like zips by, and I think it went up the road and like pulled a Yui, and then like pulled off to the side, and like 4 people jump out. And they're like, can we have your picture? And I was like, okay. And so we did. And then they're like, okay, you can go back to training now. I was like, wow. I was like, I am moving. That's about the extent of what I'm doing today, is just moving. But yeah, so usually just active rest for 2 weeks. I find that movement helps. I did static rest one time. And when I started running like 10 days later, I just felt like all that junk that was in my legs from the race was still in my legs when I went back to running. And it felt so awful. And it just took like so long for me to like get back into the swing of training and feeling good. And so I usually do active rest. This time I'm playing it by ear. Madeira was a huge effort. It took me to points I haven't been to yet. I've got I think a little from the day after the race to UTMB, I think is a little over 4 months. I think it's like 4 months and 1 week. So I've got plenty of time. So I'm going to take at least 2 weeks of active rest. I might take 3 or 4. I'm going to kind of play it by ear. Probably just kind of listen to my body. And, if I get to a point where it's like, oh, like I just kind of ran more this week than like I was last week. Okay, maybe my body's like just naturally going back into it now. But I'm gonna let it get that recovery and then train for UTMB. So I mean, yesterday I was out on the snowshoes though. I was out snowshoe running because we got another snowstorm. So
yeah, you guys got dumped on again. Yeah.
So I actually direct mounted my Gore-Tex Wild Horse 3 shoes to my Atlas snowshoes. So I don't have any uncomfortable bindings on my feet anymore. I'm just like free. And it was like mind blowing. I was like, this is amazing. I should have done this 4 months ago. But yeah, so yesterday I was just out like having fun on the snowshoes running around. But now the snow is melting quickly. So I'm going to need another storm if I want to have some more snowshoe fun, but build up my hip flexors. But
you got to patent and market those snowshoes, because I think every time we've gone snowshoeing, we were like, why does no one just attach a shoe to these?
Yeah, it's
comfortable.
It's actually, if you race, you'll find out that's what they do. Like I raced snowshoe national championships this winter, and I used bindings, and they bothered my feet like heck.
Yeah.
But a lot of the guys who are serious about racing will actually just direct mount their shoes. I mean, it's basically you rip off the bindings, you drill holes through your shoes, you put bolts in, and you just bolt them directly on, and it works great. I had just never bothered to get out the tools and do it. And then finally, yesterday, I spent the afternoon in the cabin doing it, and then and then I took him out and ran on the mountain with him. So now that it's May, I guess I figured I'd get serious. So, but it's also May is also spring snow, so maybe I'll get a few snowshoe runs in. But
Nice.
yeah, it's way more comfortable than using bindings.
Absolutely, for sure. Well, we're kind of wrapping up the main show here with Zach. It's been an incredible show, man. Zach, thank you so much for all the knowledge and the great stories. This has been easily one of my favorite shows. If you've got a couple more minutes, we'd like to do a post show where we can kind of rapid fire through questions from the audience. But before we go, where can people find you online so they can follow you and shout you out? Thank you for being on the show and stuff like that. What are your social handles?
I'm pretty minimal, just Facebook, which is Zach Miller, and after Madeira, like the whole island friended me, so I'm tapped out at 5,000 now. And so I mean, if somebody spams me on some Oakley post, I'll maybe unfriend them, and somebody lucky will sneak in, but yeah, so there's that. I might start an athlete page. I haven't decided yet, so you can watch, but and then Instagram, which is at Zach Miller 38. So Zach ZACH Miller 38. That's my Instagram. I'm not on Twitter. But yeah. One shout out I would give I want to give is when I was at Madeira all week, they had me eat at this they set it up for me to eat at this restaurant in town, and the owner was like fantastic. He was like my #1 fan. By the time I got to race day, I was like worried I was going to disappoint him, because I'd come into the restaurant to eat and he'd take me around to like the guests and be like, Americano #1, Americano #1. Like he was like, he's like picking me to win, I guess. And I was like, man, I can't disappoint this guy. So, but he was great. And like his restaurant is called Ocasco, Ocasco. So if you ever go to Madeira to run Mute or anything else, and you're in Machico, which is a little town, go to his restaurant and mention my name, because he'll probably light up and tell you a funny story or something about me, the silly American who ate whatever he put in front of me. So, but yeah, anyways, we can go on to the post show.
Yeah. I have to say that's one of the best shout outs too on the show, to give a shout out to probably a real small restaurant owner on a small island off the coast of Portugal. That's small, amazing. But I hope this business blows up.
It's open till like 2 a.m. in the morning, which is awesome. Because the first night I showed up, I got off the plane and I've got to run. Like that's almost more important than food to me. So I went out and did a shakeout run, and then I showed up at the restaurant at like 11:30 at night, because they said I could show up late. So I show up at like 11:30 at night, and he fed me. I think he kind of thought it was funny that I showed up so late, but they always fed me.
That is just, it's kind, and it's kind of testament to your character too, dude. That is really cool. And with all this is kind of your first time on this show without other people. I'm super stoked that you were able to make it down off the mountain. So one thing I like to do with first time guests, we're going to call this your first full time on the show. I like to ask the same rapid fire questions of all the guests. They're very simple. All you have to do is just answer with the first thing that comes to your head. You let me know when you're ready, and we'll just rip through them.
Mm-hmm.
What was your very first race?
A 1 mile or half mile in elementary school, like cross country half mile.
Favorite running movie?
Prefontaine.
Trails or road?
Trails.
Favorite place to run right now?
Oh, that's hard. Colorado, I guess. Second to the Conestoga Trail in Pennsylvania. That's my hometown trail. And it's actually under kind of threat of certain sections getting closed down right now, because some energy company is saying we can't trespass or something. So I'm hoping they get that sorted out.
Yeah, that sucks. What would be a bucket list race?
Well, UTMB.
I think I know the answer to this next question. Guilty pleasure TV show.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Oh no, but that's not really guilty. Is that guilty pleasure? Because I don't really feel guilty for that.
I honestly thought you were going to say I don't watch TV. So the fact you said anything is 100% correct.
Well, I don't really watch TV. Like if you name a current TV show, I'm probably not going to have seen it or know what it is. But yeah, I don't know. Fresh Prince at what was it? The Cosby Show. I'm a big fan of that. But basically, when I was in college, my college roommate Max Ferguson, who's a runner-up in Washington.
Washington State, yeah.
Would say, he always kidded me saying that I would fall asleep in college with like ABC Family on. Like the ABC Family was my jam. So I'd like fall asleep watching something like The Cosby Show or Full House or something like that.
Yeah, TGIF, man, TGIF.
Yeah.
What's your favorite pre-race meal?
Pasta with probably some red meat, bread. Pretty your basic, pretty standard.
Favorite post-race indulgence?
Ooh, like a cheeseburger and a root beer and an ice cream.
Good choice. And finally, your current running kicks.
Well, today I ran down in Kiger 3. But I use that and the Wild Horse 3 at the same time. So, and in the winter it's the Wild Horse 3 Gore-Tex.
Nice.
Which is kind of still now. So.
And that's it. That's the quick question quiz. You totally did it. So my final question before we go into the post show: do you have to run back to bar camp?
Eventually, I'll go back tomorrow. I'll go back tomorrow, like morning or something. I used to always just kind of rush back up right away. Like I'd come back from races in like Europe and get back at like, land at like, I don't know, like 7 p.m. and then get to the trail and get everything packed by like 11 o'clock and then run up in the middle of the night and like crash and wake up at 6 in the morning to serve breakfast. But now I've kind of got a little more relaxed lately, and I usually I'll often stay in town with, crash with a friend and then go up the next day. So
okay, that's good.
But,
that's good.
Yeah, it's usually not required for me to go up that night or whatever. But I mean, I've done my fair share of running up at like midnight. In fact, one night I stayed in town to have dinner with Peter Maximo and his wife Nora and Brandon Stepanovich, and then I was gonna run up, and it was like the middle of a snowstorm, and I was like in shorts, and Nora was like, "You're gonna freeze," and I was like, "But I'm almost always in shorts," and I got some like new Nike gear, and it was great, but it wasn't like super, the stuff that I picked out to go up in wasn't like super warm. And I got like 3 miles up, and I was like some of the coldest I've ever been. And I stopped, and I had a pack, and I was fortunately I was carrying up gear that my sister and her fiance had ordered. So they had ordered like these long like pants, like legit like winter hiking pants, and like these huge like mountaineering mittens, and I'm there like freezing my butt off, like shoving all these like things on my body. And then I'm like, okay, I was like, because I was afraid I wouldn't bridge the gap, that like I would get too cold before I got to camp, because I had like 3 more miles to go. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it like another half mile, and if I'm like not getting any warmer, I might have to turn around. And I started doing intervals just to stay warm. Like I would count for like 60. I'd count for like 60 seconds, like run hard for like 60 seconds, and then rest for like 30 seconds, or like go easy 30 seconds. And then I was doing intervals just for the sake of warmth. And then I finally made it. I did get to the cabin that night, but I went in and like built a fire right away, and like Nathan, my sister's fiance, heard me. He's like, "Yeah, I thought maybe you were cold. I heard you start the fire like in the middle of the night." So I also think it took me like 4 hours that night. I think it took me like 4 hours to go 6 miles. It was insane, but
that's just that's nuts. But also like a great story to end the main show on. We're gonna move into the post show here. Again, thank you, Zach Miller, for joining us for tonight's episode number 114. If you're watching live, thank you for tuning in. tonight live, and every single Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, you guys know where to go. YouTube.com/thegingerrunner. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can get updated every time we go live or a new video is posted. New album, new music. I create all the music for all the movies on Ginger Runner channel. There's a new album with all of the most recent tunes dropping on May 12th, which is in 2 weeks. So just wanted to make sure that everyone knows about that. Stick around. We're going to, we have tons of questions from the chat room that we're going to ask Zach here in the post show. So stick around, everyone. Thank you for watching the main show. Here we go. Post show.
Ginger Runner.
You have the best stories, Zach. Seriously, like living in the backcountry, racing internationally, all this stuff. There's no shortage of stories. I'm sure of it.
People love the animal stories.
Yeah, people loved the animal encounter stories.
Oh, good. I'll have to try and have some more, just so I can.
Yeah, but just maybe stay alive, Zach. That's the point.
I'll shove a raw steak in my Nike pack or something before next run. I did run up one night, with pizza one night from, they won't deliver to bar camp. So one night I ran up with pizza on my back, and I was like, if the bears are back out, I'm probably a moving target right now.
I'm picturing you running up the mountain. You have a picture that you posted recently to your Instagram of you carrying the giant water jug. Did you strap the pizza on like that?
No, the pizza was like, I went to the pizza shop. It's like right at the bottom of the mountain. I was like, can you put that in tinfoil instead of a box? and then I stood there and like shoved it in my running pack and zipped it up and went out the door. No, that was a gas can. We were out of gas. We need gas for our 4-wheeler and our chainsaw. And we need more for like the summer. We don't need it right now, but we need it for when the snow starts to disappear. And so we had like 4 gas cans that need to go to town to get refilled, and we could send them on the train, but we figured they would just be self-sufficient. So my future brother-in-law, Nathan, he hiked out, so he took 3, and then I was running out. So it was funny because I posted that and I made a comment about the new Nike Kiger pack, and I was actually being serious because I was wearing the new Nike Kiger pack. That's how I was carrying the can. I strapped it to my pack. But all you could see in the picture was the gas can. So everybody thought I was just making a joke, which I was making a joke, but I was also partly serious. So, but yeah, that was a gas can. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, you got it attached. It worked out great.
Yeah.
Kim, I know, has a ton of questions.
Stephen Fellows asked, any advice from cruise ship days on battling treadmill monotony?
Oh, I mean, treadmill's just brutal. Basically, the way I got around it, or not really got around it, but just dealt with it, was almost every day was some sort of a workout, because I just couldn't run the same pace all the time. So I did a ton of like fartleks and progression runs and just like intervals. I would just kind of make it up on the fly, be like, okay, today I'm going to do 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off, work a warm up in there and then do like a interval workout and then work a cool down in. Cause if you do 15 minutes of warm up, that's not so bad. And 15 minutes of cool down, that's not so bad. And throw, 30 minutes in the middle and, all of a sudden you're up to an hour and you're so focused the whole time and you're so grateful to be cooling down instead of going hard and you're savoring the warm up that it makes it mentally more bearable. So that's all I really did was pace and grade variation to break up the monotony.
What else you got there?
There's been lots of questions asking if you have any recommendations for a good treadmill. There's a lot of people that are kind of stuck in situations where they can't get outside to the mountains.
No, unfortunately, no. I mean, I just ran with whatever was on my ship, and sometimes that was a good one. And sometimes that was like some piece of junk in the basement of a ship, that might shut off every 15 minutes. You know what I mean? So like, my only recommendation would be if you can get the ones with like the toggle controls instead of like the touch screens, because when you're training seriously, you really start to sweat, and then those touch screen buttons, they're useless. You can't adjust anything anymore when you're all sweaty. So I would have like a hard set like button that you can actually push, because it was funny when Mike Wardian did that 50K record on the cruise ship on the treadmill. I read the report of it, and basically every single struggle that he had was what I dealt with on like a daily basis. He'd be like, oh, and then and then the emergency button accidentally got pushed and the whole thing shut off and I had to start over. Or he'd be like, and then I got too sweaty and I couldn't adjust. I was like, yep, I did that like every day. Like one day I was doing like a tempo run or something, or an interval, and I forget what I did. I cranked it up to like 520 pace and started going. I was going to do that for like 5 minutes, and then I couldn't get it down. Like it wouldn't come down. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm just going to do like a 520 tempo today. And I ran it for like, I forget, like 3 miles or something. And then it was like, well, I guess I'm in pretty good shape. So yeah, that's about all I've got for treadmill.
I imagine that you do not miss the treadmills at this point.
No, I don't miss it. I don't think I've touched one since I left the ship.
Wow. I believe it. Yeah, you're just too close to like beautiful trails and mountains at this point. Is the stash coming back? People wanted to know about the stash.
Jason Coop in the chat room.
Oh yeah, Jason Coop wanted to know.
Zach, bring back the stash.
Bring back
the stash. Oh man, my mom won't want to hear that. I don't know. Like it might come back for YouTube. It was funny because like I cut my hair the day before the race in Madeira. Like my hair was down like here, and I did like all the pre-race interviews and everything. And then the day of the race, I went to the hairdresser and I got it all chopped off. And everyone was like, "You cut your hair," and then I started learning that people like the stash, because some people were like, "Don't touch the stash," or at least you kept it. And then I did it and I shaved it, and then people were like, "Where is it?" And so I don't know. I just I'll see what happens. I'll see how lazy I am, but it might come back for UTMB. It might not. I'm sure my mom would love for it to stay off.
If it comes back for UTMB, it just has to be bigger than Laney's. You just have
but I don't know that I can beat Laney. Like it takes me a long time to grow it.
You got 4 months starting now.
That's about how much time I'm gonna need.
We have a couple more questions here.
Question from Jordan Harvey. Does Zach use a heart rate monitor for training and racing?
Yeah, do you use any of that sort of heart rate tracking or exertion level tracking, anything like that?
No, I don't. I'm educated as an engineer. I can be very analytical, but when it comes to running, I throw it all out the window. I get too obsessive if I know all the numbers and the things, and I like to enjoy what I'm doing. So if it works for you, great. But for me, I just ditch it all. And, you know, I don't need the added stress of analyzing my numbers of a daily training day. I just kind of do it and move on. You know, if it was good, it's good. If it's bad, it's, you know, it is what it is. So actually my lack of technology got a lot of attention in Madeira because, but I did basically all my training for Madeira without a watch. I would just look at the clock in the cabin, and then I would leave, and then I would come back and look at the clock, and if it wasn't long enough, I'd go back out again. And except for like workout days when I had time intervals, which some workouts I structured that I don't even need a watch to do my workout. I just run like certain climbs and things hard. But sometimes I do like intervals on the incline or whatever. So I just borrow Nathan's watch and go out and use his. So when I got to Madeira, I didn't really have a watch. So I went scouring the town for a watch, and I found this this Casio watch for like 14 euros. Oh, and it's great. It's like the lightest, smallest, simplest watch. Like my college coach always said, like start, stop. That's all you need. Just go Walmart, buy a $10 watch. When the battery runs out, buy another one. And so yeah, like, and then after the race, they were like, show them your watch. And then like, since then on Facebook, like everybody's crazy about the watch. Like some guy in Thailand messaged me and was like, everybody on Thailand ultra running Facebook page is talking about your watch. He's like, and then some guy like got one and he's like posted on my wall. He's like, look, now I have the watch of Zach Miller.
That's awesome.
Like, yeah, so I don't know.
You're starting a trend, man. You're starting the trend back towards minimalism, where it is. It's just start, stop. That's all you need.
Yeah.
You just need to know what time, like stopwatch. That's what they did at Barkley. At Barkley, they wouldn't allow anyone to take any GPS or anything like that.
Really?
It's just a stopwatch or the time of day, I think. That's it.
Yeah.
I think that's all you're allowed.
Yeah,
all you're allowed.
I mean, yeah. Cool.
What was it? We just passed that last question there. Oh, yeah. I think this is a good question to kind of end the show on. Coming up this next weekend is another ultra trail race overseas, Transvolcania. I know that you have some friends that are going and teammates, and we have friends and teammates that are going. Teammates? We're not on a team. Do you have any picks? Do you have any picks for Transvolcania? What's going to go down on the island of Apollo?
I mean, I'd love to see Chris Vargo and Alicia Shea win each side. They're my teammates. They're good friends. They're awesome. I wish I could be there with them. You know, I wanted to go to Transvolcania. I'm really glad I went to Madeira, but you know, there's so many good races and Transvolcania is one of them. It's hard to, but if I sit down, I don't know who's on the women's side.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure who's there, but you know, I'll go out and pick Alicia. You know, I think she's been putting in some good training. She was 4th there last year. She knows a lot more about the course this year. She's you know, I think she could potentially take it. That's with me not really knowing who else is in the field. But you know, I wouldn't put her past her to win. For the men, like I said, I'd love to see Vargo take it. But it's hard to bet against a guy like Luis Alberto. That guy is just, I mean, they allow poles at Transvolcania. He's good with his poles. He can climb and he can descend. Like he can run that Transvolcania descent phenomenally. Like that race is defined by that descent. When I finished Madeira, I said Madeira is way harder than Transvolcania. It's harder to finish. It's harder to complete. Transvolcania is very difficult to win because it's basically all up in 30 miles and then all the way back to the ocean in 9 miles and then a little climb to the finish. And it's defined so much by that technical descent that's kind of where the race is often won and lost, I guess. And yeah, I mean, I'd say the smart money is on Luis Alberto. He's just hard to beat there. But I mean, I'd love to see someone give him a good run for his money. I know Sage is in there too, and Sage has given it a go many times. So he's kind of a veteran on that course, and you know, maybe he can find, you know, he always charges up hard and tries to get away, and maybe this will be the year he can stay away. That would be good to see too. So should be exciting for sure.
I think it's gonna be a super exciting race. I think that's a good question to kind of end the show on, just because I agree. It could be anyone's game really next weekend. It is a course that a lot of people are familiar with. People who are running it have either run it before or train on it, or you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, it'll be a real fun race to follow next weekend for sure.
Yeah, and I was bummed not to be going. You know, they actually Depa was actually still contacting me like after Madeira, being like, "You coming to Transvolcania?" They're like, "No, man, I gotta rest." But yeah, I'd love to be there though.
Yeah. Well, we're sending our thoughts and love to Transvolcania for this next week. Hopefully maybe we can get someone from that race on the show next week. But Zach, thank you, my friend. An awesome show. I'm going to be going back and listening to this podcast again, watching the episode again. Thank you, everyone, for watching live. Please go follow Zach. As he mentioned, he doesn't have
Facebook full.
He's Facebook full. However,
Yeah.
Instagram has no limit, and I highly encourage you to follow on Instagram. You're doing some great posts. Your photos are great.
There's been a lot of
Yeah,
talk
thanks.
about the really good Instagram pictures.
Yeah,
so.
really good Instagram pictures.
Well,
Keep it
I'm
coming.
trying. My sister got me this GoPro Session 4 for Christmas, which I didn't ask for, and I was like, I'm not sure. And it's like been the greatest thing ever because I started Instagram, and the Session 4 is like the size of a quarter, and I just like So I'm getting a kick out of Instagram. I wasn't sure about it, but now that I'm on it, I like it.
You should. I just used the Session 4 for this last week's video that I posted of me training for Trans Rockies. It's a really great little piece of equipment.
Yeah, it is.
It doesn't do well at night, but it's great for just like filming stuff. A trick for you, and I would go film a long run or one of your training runs in the next like couple months or whatever. Film it. Like if you stick it in your mouth and run with it, it's actually really stable, so you don't have to bring a selfie stick or anything. But get that footage and then send it to me. And I want to make like a cool edit. Like I'll throw music on it and do edit and stuff. Make it the Zach Miller special. Something
like you want like the whole long run, because that's gonna be a long time with camera in my mouth.
Just like do clips of like you running by it. We'll talk about this in email or something like that. But I would love to do something like that, because I bet you can get some crazy footage, like super fast, crazy stuff. We can talk about that. Chasing mountain lions and running from bears. Like, just the coolest stuff. So if you're watching live, go follow Zach on Instagram. He has too many friends, so he can't friend you on Facebook. Zach, you should get an athlete page or like just do that. It's super easy to handle, and
there's a lot of people saying fan page.
You have so many.
I'll probably start one then.
I don't think it's that hard to manage, but you have a lot of fans, Zach. And it was such an awesome privilege to have you on the show tonight, dude. Get back to bar camp safe in the morning. And maybe bring some pizza up for you.
Maybe.
And thanks again, everyone, for watching live. We'll see you guys next Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific. And thank you, Kim, for keeping an eye on the chat room.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Kim.
That's it for tonight's show, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.